Imagine being surrounded by freezing floodwaters, and the only way you can survive is by clinging to a corrugated iron roof for 13 agonizing hours, hoping to make it out alive. Sounds horrible, but Eddie Evans, a 6-year-old, knows this nightmare all too well. Decades later, the memory still haunts Eddie Evans. But let's take a step back and try to understand what happened on that day. The year was 1953, a time when the world was still reeling from the scars of the war, but nature had its own plans in store for the Netherlands. Floods were no stranger to the country, since half of it lies just a meter above sea level and 1/4 of the country lies below sea level. Now this was an issue, since any major fluctuation would cause floods. Initially, the Dutch tried to fix the problem by constructing dikes. But in January 1953, as the storm raged on, dikes crumbled, and in just mere minutes, 1,800 lives were lost, homes were destroyed, and about 200,000 hectares of land was submerged, leaving behind nothing but a trail of destruction. While this is the past, we can only be cautious about the future because there are about 25 million people living in constant fear, and the Dutch government at this point believes that its defenses can only hold up until 2050. 2050 is not far away. So the only way Europe can stop history from repeating itself is by building massive dams. Scientists from Germany and the Netherlands proposed what could be one of the largest civil engineering projects in history, named NEED. According to this mega project, 2 dams are projected to be constructed. These 2 dams will be done in the English Channel and North Sea. The dam in the English Channel would connect France and England. On the other hand, the dam in the North Sea would connect Scotland and Norway. An unrealistic and overwhelming project which is estimated to cost $270 to $550 billion. The amount might seem significant, but the cost of doing nothing is even more than that. This mega project would stretch between the United Kingdom, France and Norway, and would completely enclose the North Sea. Before going into the intricate details of the project, let's understand how important it is for the project to be successful. It would easily protect about 15 northern European countries if it is. In short, the project aims to construct 2 barriers which would disconnect the North Sea and Baltic Sea from the Atlantic Ocean. The northern part of the NEED is to run along 476 kilometers, which extends from the northeast tip of Scotland via Orkney and Shetland Islands to Bergen in Norway. This is to have a maximum depth of 321 meters in the Norwegian Trench and an average depth of about 127 meters, whereas the southern part is to connect France to the southwest coast of England. This is to have a depth of about 85 meters and a maximum depth of 102 meters. The total length of the southern part alone is 161 kilometers, thereby together they would be a total length of 637 kilometers. To put that into perspective, it would be equivalent to 3,988 football fields, or even better, an example is it could be around a length of 5.5 times shorter than the length of the Great Walls of China, which is over 21,196 kilometers. Together, both northern and southern parts are referred to as North European Enclosure Dam, which is a relief to all the coastal communities living in constant fear and danger. The countries which could be safe upon construction of these dams are England, Finland, Belgium, Germany, Lithuania, Netherlands, Russia, Sweden, Denmark, Estonia, France, Latvia, Poland, Norway and Scotland. While the project seems expensive, which is expected to cost anywhere between $270 to $550 billion, when spread over a 20-year construction period, it doesn't seem too much of an expense. If we have to put that in number, for the 20-year construction period, that cost would amount to just over 0.1% of the country's GDP. The cost of taking no action will be so many times greater than this. This 20 years is just an estimation. However, Groeksamp, an oceanographer, thinks differently. According to him, the project might take 50 to 100 years to complete and will cost about 250 to 500 billion euros. No information is revealed as to how Groeksamp arrived at such an estimation. The construction of the North European Enclosure Dam would have significant impacts on maritime trade. This is because the English Channel, which lies within the enclosed North Sea area, is the busiest waterway in the world. Incorporating sluice gates or constructing new ports could mitigate some of the effects on trade, but shipping costs and delays would still be inevitable. If we are to talk about the environmental consequences that the North Sea could have, it could include changes in water circulation, increased freshwater discharge, and disruptions to maritime and terrestrial ecosystems. However, despite whatever downsides it may have, the cost-benefit analysis favors the dam. Dam is a favorable alternative solution compared to controlled migration away from coastal areas, but many people, including the authors of the scheme, describe it as more of a warning than a solution. The North Sea megaproject could set an example for other coastal areas facing rising sea levels. Much similar to the North Sea megaproject, they can construct barriers around other enclosed bodies of water, such as the Mediterranean Sea or the Baltic Sea. This can potentially protect millions of people and their economies. However, this is just a line of thought, and further studies would be needed to assess the feasibility of these projects. The reason why the North European Enclosure Dam is said to be overwhelming is because it faces a significant technological challenge in crossing the Norwegian Trench. Like mentioned before, in the Norwegian Trench, the maximum depth it reaches is about 321 meters. Civil engineering in such deep waters, also at such depth, is hard. It is theoretically possible because, if you look at fixed oil rigs, they can be constructed in depths exceeding 500 meters. Now, coming back to dams, we have to understand that dams have different specifications and requirements when compared to oil rigs. Therefore, they would need innovative engineering solutions to overcome this problem concerning the Norwegian Trench and hopefully ensure a successful construction of the dam. Because, in the end, a lot of lives are dependent on the success of this project. Climate change isn't a distant threat. It's right here, and the consequences are looming larger than ever. Especially with the world's sea levels rising, the Netherlands is more vulnerable now than ever before. The sea levels have already risen by 7.5 centimeters since 1993 and 21 centimeters since 1880. While it is hard to wrap our heads around as to what impact it could have, we must understand that such a rise in sea levels would be catastrophic to all the countries. Sea level rise is slow but unstoppable. It is expected to see a rise of 2.7 meters by the end of 2100. This is an optimistic prediction by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Even though the current global temperatures are set at about 1 degree Celsius above pre-industrial level, it is said that the existing policies will further warm up the planet. And this set temperature could go up to 2.6 to 3.1 Celsius by the end of the century. The point is that the risk of sea levels rising is inevitable, and when it does, Europeans will have a huge impact. The Netherlands would especially have a big hit, since a third of the country sits below sea level. One can only understand the loss it can cause from homes, cultural places to economic hubs. It is thereby essential to complete the project in time. The progress so far by the Dutch sea defense system is considered to be on conservative estimates. They designed the system to cope with only a 40 centimeters rise in sea level, but the sea levels are rising faster than released. This North Sea megaproject serves mainly as a thought experiment. This is a true example where it demonstrates the extreme costs that we need to pay for engineered solutions due to the effects of climate change. Even though this is intended as a backup plan, this would be of great importance if policymakers fail to address climate change in time. An urgent action is required, and it's not just Europe's problem but the world's problem too. Because if one nation gets affected, other nations will have an impact too. So collectively, we must try to deal with the issue of human-caused climate change, because we wouldn't want to have a repeat of what happened during the North Sea flood in January 1953, where 187,000 animals were drowned and caused significant damage to around 47,300 buildings, flooding 9% of the total Dutch farmland. That's all for today's video. Hope you found this informative and interesting. Let us know about your thoughts in the comments section. Stay tuned for many more, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for updates.